Hello, my name is Sadia Batul, and I'm a Pennsylvania Office of Child Development and Early Learning Policy Fellow, founder and administrator for Pennsylvania Community Inclusion for All. Today we have with us Christine Reber, Director, Bureau of Early Learning Resource Center Operations. Thank you so much, Christine, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Would you like to talk a little bit about yourself and the work you do?
Absolutely. Again, I would just like to introduce myself, Christine Reber, and I am the Bureau Director at the Office of Child Development and Early Learning. And I lead a team here at Octel who work with the Early Learning Resource Centers across the state. And we are doing some really exciting things. So I'm looking forward to having the opportunity to talk about those.
I'm really excited to know more about it. Please share what is an Early Learning Resource Center.
Well, for those of you not familiar, our early learning resource centers, they're designed as one-stop hubs for early education and childcare needs. And you'll find that there's 19 various regional ELRCs across the Commonwealth. And these are places designed where families can find high quality early education opportunities. They can apply for assistance to help with their with childcare costs through the Child Care Works subsidized childcare program. And for those of you that may not be familiar, we'll talk a little more about that later on. But that program is designed for low-income working families to assist with the cost for childcare. The ELRCs also assist with various workforce initiatives and leaders in various teams to assist with childcare needs across the Commonwealth.
Thank you. What is the connection of the Early Learning Resource Centers to the Pennsylvania Office of Child Development and Early Learning?
Well, like I explained earlier, so within Octel, our Bureau of Operations and Monitoring, we provide the direct support to the ELRCs, and that we do that through instruction, technical assistance, training. We also monitor the programmatic and system requirements. So my team is very, very closely connected with the directors and the staff across the Commonwealth that operate the Early Learning Resource Center operations.
What kind of services can families find at the Early Learning Resource Centers?
Well, I mentioned a little bit earlier, but some examples, and probably a couple of the really important ones, and I'll hit the first one would be the Child Care Works program, which I mentioned a little earlier. This is our Pennsylvania subsidy program to assist families with child care needs that are low-income working families. The ELRC would work with these families to complete the applications, just for an example, give them the various eligibility requirements. Certainly, the ELRCs also are the go-to if you're looking to determine the various quality programs within your specific region or county. And they are able to do that because they have oversight of the Keystone STARS program, which for those that may not be familiar, that is our quality rating improvement system in Pennsylvania to designate quality programs. So the STARS program essentially has a rating from 1 to 4, and that rating is based upon various components of the program. So the ELRC can assist families in guiding them because we do believe very strongly at Octel in family choice. So the ELRCs would then be able to provide the family with various availability at various providers within their regions. So those are just a couple examples of some things the ELRCs would be able to assist families with. But in addition to those two very important programs, the ELRCs also, as I mentioned earlier too, work on some various task forces, leadership teams. They can connect families with community services, early learning programs such as Head Start, Early Head Start, Pre-K Counts, and early intervention, just to name a few. So again, they are very multifaceted.
Thank you. That is all wonderful information. You talked about the quality early learning programs. Would you share with us why is it important to find a quality early learning program for families?
Absolutely. For any parent, such as myself, and certainly such as you, and everybody that's probably watching this, we want to ensure that our children are in quality programs when we have to leave them with other people to care for them. So Keystone STARS, it's a responsive system to improve and support, recognize the continuous quality improvement efforts of early learning programs in Pennsylvania. And the STARS program is guided by 3 core principles. A whole child approach to education is essential to meeting the holistic and individual needs of each and every child and family. That's the first point. Second point would be knowledgeable and responsive early care and education professionals are essential to the development of children and the support of families. I think we all know this is the case. And then certainly the third point would be building and sustaining ongoing positive relationships among children, families, early care and education professionals, and community stakeholders is essential for the growth and development of every child. So those are the three core principles behind the STARS program. And our office and certainly the ELRCs want to be responsive to the needs of our families and certainly our children. So that kind of, hopefully that wasn't too wordy, but just gives you a little glimpse of why it's so important to find quality programs for our families.
Indeed, it is very important. Um, how much does it cost to access resources from the early learning resource centers? And are these services available to all families?
Absolutely, that's a really excellent question. The early learning resource centers have no cost to families when they call to access um, technical assistance or guidance or whatever it is, assistance with the applications. It is free to anyone across the Commonwealth to go ahead and call your early learning resource center within your county, and there are connections for that, and we'll talk about that I think a little bit later on how you can reach out to them, but they are there and available to assist you with your childcare needs. So we really encourage you to reach out to your early learning resource centers within your region if you have any questions. And certainly after this interview, with me talking so fast and throwing a lot of information at you, I would imagine you may have some questions. So that is their function and the reason we have them across the Commonwealth, to really help you as a parent and help families that are struggling with their childcare needs to be able to have that point of contact. So please, we do encourage that you reach out, even just to call to say, hey, we heard about you. Can you tell us, how you function, and are you able to support me in this or that? We would highly recommend that for sure.
Thank you for that. Could you talk about the rapid response teams and their role in supporting families who have a child at risk of suspension and expulsion from the childcare or the educational setting?
Sure, absolutely. And I do want to make sure that I designate the differentiation of the ELRCs versus our capital area intermediate units, who are the leaders in the rapid response teams. But certainly the ELRCs, many of them function very closely as a partnership with these teams. But I do want to just mention that the teams were created through the capital area intermediate units. And these are cross-agency coordination as you mentioned, to really look at the increasing need to help families when their child is at a risk of suspension or expulsion due to behavioral issues. And this is definitely an ongoing conversation with many leaders within Octal and certainly across many systems. We meet regularly to have these discussions and to really determine what we can do to assist those children and those families, because as we all know, suspension and expulsion is a very traumatic thing for families and certainly for children. So we want to ensure that we are talking about these issues, looking at potential policy amendments, working collaboratively with our partners, certainly with the CAIUs, who many of you are very, very familiar with. They're a great resource too. So hopefully that answers that.
Yes, it does. And the suspension expulsion also then becomes a barrier for many children to have that inclusion, in that setting. So thank you so much for sharing that. Um, how can families find or contact an early learning resource center?
Okay, so there are various ways that a family can go about doing this. Certainly, if you're anything like me, I usually just pick my phone up and I'll Google in. So you could Google in, early learning resource centers in Pennsylvania, and you would be able to find various links. There are certainly also areas on the Department of Human Services, the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services, links to get the direct contacts for the ELRCs. And certainly you can look up Octal and find the link for it that way. But I think one of your best bets would definitely be to go to www.raiseyourstar.org, and that's RAISEYOURSTAR.org. It's one word, and you would certainly be able to find their contacts on that site also.
Thank you so much, Christine, for joining us today and sharing this wonderful information about the Early Learning Resource Center.
Thank you for the opportunity. And I do want to just do a quick shout out to all of our childcare professionals, families, and children out there, especially during this difficult time with the pandemic. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your dedication, and just all blessings to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would encourage my viewers to please visit the raiseyourstar.org website and connect with your local ELRCs. I would also like to thank our viewers and supporters at Pennsylvania Community Inclusion for All. If you would like to know more about us, please find us on Facebook or visit the PA Promise for Children website at www.papromiseforchildren.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much.